Okay, I'd like to take a couple of minutes here, probably 5 or 6, going over the rubric for your essay that's due Sunday night. And if you wanted to follow along or look at the rubric or print it out, it's item 6.1 in the learning module. And this is a very important essay, and one of the ways you're going to begin it is you're going to go back and look at my comments that I made on your previous essay. Make sure you know how to find my entire comments, please. Make sure you listen to the sound file. If you have any questions how to do that, get a hold of me this week, all right? Don't wait till the weekend. Don't wait till the last minute. And make sure you look at what I said about your essay then, because I don't want you repeating the same mistakes. If you do, I'll take off even more points than I took off on the previous essay. So don't do that. That said, page length is critical for this essay. It's 3 full pages, all right? Not a line less. If you want to go more, that's fine, all right? The second rubric item is called formatting, grammar, and spelling. This time I've combined them into one element of the rubric, all right? I expect your formatting to be perfect now. If it wasn't, I marked on your paper in the last unit what was wrong and told you where to go to figure out how to fix that, all right? You can go to page 468 to see exactly how your paper needs to look. That's exactly what I want to see when I open up your paper after Sunday night. And basically, it's double spaced throughout, 12 point, no extra spacing any place. If you have to, hold down the Shift key as you press the Enter key, and that'll keep you from accidentally doing double spacing. Make sure it's 12-point font. Make sure it's very simple font, nothing fancy. Make sure you have the headers in the upper right-hand corner, and make sure you have the proper identifying information on the left, please. And page 468 of your textbook shows you exactly how that's supposed to look. Now, tone is the next item. And tone means the language that you use. I'm not talking about using 6-syllable words. I'm talking about using words that have meaning, words that have specific meaning. Don't use any language in your paper. Don't use any words that don't have meaning. Don't do anything to get in the way of the reader, all right? It's called clutter. When you start throwing in words that don't say anything, you kind of get in the way of what the reader's trying to get, that's just clutter. Don't clutter up your paper, all right? Keep your words very specific. Every word should have a clear meaning. You should have a clear purpose that you're using it, and the meaning of the word should be clear. If it's just a vague word, if it's one of those throwaway words, don't use it. Also be very careful of pronouns. Don't use that too much. Don't use they too much. Don't use it too much. The reader doesn't know to whom or to what those pronouns refer. So use very, very specific words. Also be careful about repetition. Don't use the word over and over again in the same sentence, over and over again in the same paragraph, the same way with short phrases. Don't be repetitive. Repetition lowers the tone. It bores the reader, it lowers the tone, and it doesn't add anything to the meaning. Okay, this time I'm looking more specifically for a good introduction. Make sure you read the textbook material about introductions. Just go to the textbook in the index, look up beginnings, all right? That's how they refer to introductions in this book. The introduction can be simple and straightforward. It basically tells the reader what the paper is going to be about. In this case, you're going to tell the reader the take that you're taking on the Faulkner essay, all right? You don't have to tell the reader what the Faulkner's essay is about. We already know what the essay is about. You need to tell the reader what your take, your perception, your basic analysis is of the essay and what you're going to talk about, of the short story and what you're going to talk about in the upcoming essay. All an introduction does is sets the stage and tells the reader what you're going to talk about. It's that straightforward. A conclusion is also very straightforward. A conclusion wraps up what you said, it summarizes the basic points of what you said, and it reflects the introduction. If you struggle with the introduction, go ahead and write the paper. Make sure the paper is a good focus. Get to your conclusion. Summarize what you said, wrap up your conclusion, and then create an introduction out of the conclusion. It's very common that the conclusion and the introduction feel the same. They shouldn't read word for word the same, but they should have some of the same keywords in them. They can have some synonyms that mean the same thing, and they should let the reader know that they've come full circle, okay? The introduction promises the reader where the paper is going to go. They get to the introduction, they realize they're there, and it feels like the beginning again. It's a round trip. It's a road trip that has a clear beginning and an ending, and the ending's in the same place as the beginning, right? All essays are road trips. You want to get back to where you started safely, okay? And that's the conclusion. I talk about paragraph focus. As you know, I stress this very, very heavily in Unit 1. A paragraph is a unified element of thought, okay, one point that you want to make with all the supporting evidence so the reader can clearly see that point and clearly believe that point. Paragraph development is that supporting evidence, okay? Did you develop the paragraph? Were you just very jumpy and raced on to the next thought, or did you slow down, spend some time with that central thought, give some examples, give some illustrations, give some text directly from Faulkner, and give some text directly from, some quotes directly from your research, all right? Organization and flow is usually very straightforward. If the paper is logical to you, it's probably logical to the reader. What it means is that you just don't go running off onto side points. That you stick to the theme that you said you're going to stick to in the introduction. You stick to it, and you don't go zigzag, 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 and return even back to yourself. You don't do that. The only time you come back to the beginning is in the conclusion. No other place. All right? Use of source material. This, as I said, this essay is the stepping stone to the research paper, so you have to use, I'm trying to teach you how to use some source material. Don't forget in the learning module, I have an item called Introduction to Databases, all right? It's item 3.3. Item 3.3, make sure you looked at that multiple times. Databases aren't easy. Please don't be waiting to Sunday nights to do this, okay? All opinions need to be supported opinions. This paper is your opinion about Faulkner and what he's saying in terms of feminism and Marxism. I'm not expecting you to make this up. I'm expecting you to go to the discussions, look at everybody's discussions, comments, look at what went on there. It's going to teach you a lot. It's critical that you look at the discussions to do this essay. That's what they're all about. It's the goal of the discussions is to help you write this essay. Look at those, go do the research, read some articles, get some ideas about what other people are saying, and incorporate those into your own analysis. Okay, so it's critical that you use the source material. I'm not asking you to do a works cited list. I'm asking you to simply, in the paragraphs, show where the material came from. And I give you some examples at the end of that lecture, item 3.3, Introduction to Library Databases. I'll be able to tell when I look at these papers which of you followed the lecture and which of you didn't, okay? Incorporation of quotes. I've given you material in the lectures about how to use quotes carefully, okay? That's very, very important that you integrate your quotes directly into your writing, into your narrative, so the reader can see how those quotes work, can see how those quotes are supporting the point that you're making. It's not easy. If you didn't do well in high school, you're going to struggle a little bit in college. You need to practice before you move on to W233. Critical thinking, I've spelled it out here. 0 points if you just retell the story. I've read this short story hundreds of times. The other readers in the class, they've read it. You read it. You don't retell the story. Analysis is not retelling the story. If all you do is retell the story, you get 0 points for critical thinking, okay? What you really need to do is make thoughtful observations about the story and show the reader throughout the essay how you arrived, what those thoughtful observations were, and how you arrived at those thoughtful observations. That's what critical thinking is. So I've spelled it out for you. There are 5 little columns here. 15 points you get for critical thinking if you make thoughtful observations and use the theory presented to fully support those observations. You get 12 points if you sort of show a grasp of the theory and use that theory to help you make your observations. 9 points if you don't really get it. 5 points if you try but don't get it all and mostly just tell the story again. And 0 points if you just tell the story again. I don't need for you to tell me what the short story is about. I already know. Okay, what I want to know is what you thought about the short story in terms of how Marxist theory or both, feminism theory, helped illuminate the characters in that story. This is what analysis is, and this is the only kind of valued writing in college, okay, and in business too, okay. You know, the memoir was fun. The memoir helped us with some basic writing tasks, but that's not a real important part of writing in your college or business career. Then, of course, the writer's memo. I stress these writer's memos. You can lose 10 points if you don't turn one in, and you can lose a lot of points if it's not very meaningful, okay? I need to know what's inside your head. These memos really help me see how you viewed this project. I learned a lot about you, a lot about your needs, a lot about your strengths. Invariably, students who turn in really sterling, well-constructed, well-focused, well-thought-out, well-formatted, all right, well-written writer's memos almost always get 100 on their essays, okay? Shows they did the work, they thought about the work. Well, hey, I'm starting to yak on. If you have any questions this week, get a hold of me. But very, very frankly, I've outlined everything you need to do, everything you need to know, everything you need to do this project successfully. Remember, please look at this rubric again, and please look at the discussions carefully. See what each of you have said about this particular short story, about this theory, and about how it's used. It's going to help you tremendously. And then don't forget to go back to the Getting Started material. If you look at items 7.2, Getting Started, it's going to really help you. Item 7.3, Writing Analysis. Item 7.4 is the continuation of that. Those little mini lectures are going to help you tremendously. So, hey, good luck.